Hi everyone, Catherine Rhodes here, wanting to talk with you about Chapter 3 in our HR Management series. Hope that you enjoy these little lecturettes. I'll be posting one for each chapter. Be going over some information that you'll find in your book, as well as some personal information about some things that I learned while I was on the job for over 20 years. The chapter, and when you finish this chapter, the learning objectives are to describe
the basic methods of collecting job analysis information, to be able to conduct a job analysis, explain the process of forecasting personnel requirements, compare 8 methods for recruiting job candidates, explain how to use application forms to predict job performance. So what is job analysis? Job analysis is just a process where you look at the duties of the job and the characteristics of the people that should be hired for them. If you're looking for an accountant, you probably want someone who has a 4-year accounting degree. Or if you're looking for an engineer, you'll want somebody with an engineering degree or an engineering background, perhaps so many years of experience on the job. So, how do you do this? Well, there are several different ways that you can collect information: interviews, questionnaires, observation, participant diaries, and logs. Interviews are the most widely used methods, and that's the method that I usually have used in the past. However, some people tend to distort what they actually do and try to make it sound more important. So one of the things that you'll want to do is look at what it is that they do. You can have questionnaires. You may want to do a structured questionnaire, and you may want to ask open-ended questions as well as structured questions where they check off the boxes or mark in what they do. Or you can observe. That's usually helpful when you're looking at physical activities, but it's not very appropriate when you're looking at somebody who may be working on a computer or thinking about how they need to process things. One of the best ways, and I've done this before in my own job and as well as had other people do it, is to have a participant diary or log where people go in and they write down what they do, and they keep a log over a week or over a month. And sometimes you have standardized job analysis questionnaires. So what do you do with that job analysis? Well, that's when you write a job description, what the job holder does, how he or she does it, and the conditions that the job is performed under. You'll want to look at relationships, responsibilities and duties, and standards of performance. So writing a job description has a job title, what the job's functions are, who it reports to or who they actually supervise, and then the job's major duties, and then defines the limits of the authority that the person has. Well, sometimes it's really good to look at the standards of performance, such as answering the phone within so many seconds or resolving a customer problem within a matter of this many minutes. And you also want to include any working conditions or physical environment, such as working in an office or working outside, where they may have to deal with weather elements. You can also go to the U.S. Department of Labor, Bureau of Labor Statistics, and they have information. One of the things that you have to be cautious about is making sure that your job descriptions comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA. ADA states what are the essential functions of the job, and those are the jobs that the person must be able to perform with or without reasonable accommodation, but not just one of those once in an every once in a while thing. So you have to identify what the job specifications are that will predict if a candidate can do well on the job. And that's important. So what is a job? A job is a set of closely related activities carried out for pay, and job descriptions are less detailed. But there is a way that you can look at that based upon competencies-based job analysis. And competency-based job analysis is describing the job in terms of measurable, observable, behavioral competencies
and it's worker focused. The book talks about British Petroleum, or BP, being the one who has skilled matrices. And my husband's company, which is Tate & Lyle, which started off as A.E. Staley, also has a competency-based skill matrix for their employees. So you start off with all the different jobs, and it goes up to technical expertise and problem solving. But the most important thing is how do you recruit and select those individuals once you have that job description? Well, you have to look at how many people do you have to be able to perform the job. You build that pool of candidates up. Then you have an initial screening interview. And I used to do a lot of screening interviews over the phone because I would be interviewing individuals who were in Ohio or Michigan, since I worked in the automotive industry a lot. And you want to utilize various selection techniques. And then the candidates went to the immediate hiring manager and then for final interviews. So HR played a very important role, but they weren't the only one. So in order to be able to predict what kind of employees you're going to need, you have to collaborate with the other managers to see what you're going to need. So you have to know basically what your sales are going to be, or what your productivity or volume is going to be, and then what are the number of people that you need. You also need to look at projected turnover, and turnover can be very difficult. When I worked in the home shopping industry, we had a turnover of over 200%. That meant that people only lasted about 6 months. But the typical reason why was because they needed a lot of individuals who worked nights and weekends. And we only paid a little over minimum wage. So when people could find other jobs, they went for those. Quality and skills of employees. When I was working in the automotive industry and we were looking for tool and die makers, which is a highly skilled job, those were difficult to find, and we paid a premium for those. What about strategic decisions to upgrade quality of products, technology changes, and then financial resources? So you can look at trend analysis, looking at employee levels, or ratio analysis based upon what kind of volume of work you have. And then you need to look at qualifications. Do you have internal candidates? Sometimes some of the best hires that we made in organizations that I worked for were promoting from within. So you need to look at that to see, are there any individuals that could be developed to higher managerial levels? And we used to take employees that were technicians and put them through some training to give them a taste of what it was like to be a team leader. And sometimes those team leaders would then go on and they would actually move into the supervisory ranks. And if they wanted to move up any further, then they'd have to go in and they would have to complete either an applied associate of science degree as a minimum, plus years of experience, or a 4-year degree. So succession planning can be very interesting and can also help in career counseling. And most individuals want to be able to think that they can move up in an organization, and that's good for employee morale as well. And sometimes you need to look at the outside candidates. At one point in time, I was hiring engineers, and I started off, I was just looking for an engineer who maybe had 1 or 2 years experience, would even take a student who had worked in a co-op, cooperative education process for a year with an automotive company. And when I started looking at, there go the lights, let me turn them back on so you can see me better. When I was looking for those engineering candidates, what I found was that because there was a very small pool of engineers coming out of the 4-year institutions, they were getting more money than
the individuals who had been in the marketplace for about 2 to 3 years. So we decided that we would look for somebody with some experience because we had to worry about internal equity. So how do you recruit? Well, the more applicants, the more selective you can be. So you need to look at how many people you really need, and then you need to pare those down. You can post a job internally and look at it and have the list of attributes that you want as well as pay rate, or you can recruit during the internet. And I started recruiting on the internet about 12 years ago. Job boards are very quick. Monster.com is one that's very good, fast response, but sometimes you get so many different individuals. You can advertise in a local newspaper or the web, and it's great for lower skilled employees. And for professionals, you can also go to trade and professional journals. But it does take a while to get your ads put in, so the web is quicker. You can use employment agencies as a source of candidates, such as those operated by the Job Security Department of Labor, or those with non-profit organizations, or you can use privately owned agencies such as headhunters. So why would you want to use an agency? And sometimes people use temp-to-hire agencies to help you. Well, if you don't have your own HR staff, that could be a good reason to go to an agency. If you've had difficulty in generating a large enough quality of a pool of qualified candidates, if you're looking at something very quick, then that may be another thing. Or if the recruitment effort is aimed at reaching individuals who may already be working and want to keep it quiet until they get a job. So that's another reason why you may want to do that. And typically, employment agencies, headhunters, would command about 10 to 20% of the first year salary. So it was nothing for me to pay $5,000–$6,000 to work with a agent to find somebody who was qualified in a particular area in the automotive industry. Employment agencies are great for temp agencies, especially for part-time or just-in-time workers, and they can expand or contract as needed. Or you can look at non-traditional recruitment. You can look at, and we've talked about, executive recruiters or headhunters. It's expensive, it's time-consuming, and some are better than others, and you build that relationship. You can build internships or co-op, and that was one of the things that we did for our engineering program. We had co-op programs with the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, Chattanooga, and Tennessee Tech, where we brought in students who, after they finished their sophomore year, and they would work for us a semester and then go back to school and come back and work. It gave them an opportunity to earn money for school, but it also gave them an opportunity to build skills. And we did hire quite a few of those. Also had an HR internship and co-op program, and we were able to bring in some individuals, and then we've even hired a couple of those individuals when I worked in the automotive industry before. Or you can outsource or offshore, and that's having outside vendors supply services. Here at the college, we outsourced our cleaning to an agency, or in some instances, some of the large call centers, when you call them, you now end up in India. So that's offshore. You can do referrals and walk-ins as a source of candidates, although that can be difficult. There are pros and cons to that, and sometimes it's difficult. If you have a lot of people, it can overwhelm what's going on with you. You can look at older workers, people who, because of recessions and buyouts, may want to come back into the market, but they may want flexible work options. And sometimes that can be very good for the organization and good for you, because you're bringing in somebody who is a seasoned employee. We also want to make sure that we recruit a more diverse workforce, single parents, minorities, and women. There are welfare to work programs sponsored by the government and the disabled. So when you go back through, the application form helps you to determine who is going to be a good candidate based upon the information. But just as a caution, applications can be falsified, and you also have to remember that the majority of people are not going to put information in their application that may not show them in a good light. Hope you've enjoyed listening to me as we've gone through Chapter 3 and talked about all the various reasons why you need to look at personnel planning and recruitment. I'll see you next time online. Don't forget to take a look at everything that you've got to do. There are several different things that you will need to do during this time frame. You have your environmental scan that you'll need to make sure that you do, as well as you have your quizzes that you'll have to do as well. So hope that you're able to take a look at everything that's on there. There's a couple of exercises and some postings that you need to do too, and I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.